The GDP Center is the Global Development Policy Center. Our mission is to advance policy-oriented research on financial stability, human well-being, and the environment. We're a couple years old now. We were inaugurated by the Honorable Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. And he charged us to not only be a university-based think tank, but also to be a do tank. Global China Initiative is one of our 4 signature programs that we have at the GDP Center. We execute the Global China Initiative in 3 different ways. 1, we do a lot of research and generate data to create more transparency about these activities and generate knowledge. 2, we have partnerships with university collaborators in China and in host countries, Andean Amazon, South Asia, and Southern Africa. And 3rd, we have something called the Global China Fellows Program, where we bring PhD students from Boston University and universities across the world to come to BU, work on their dissertations about Chinese global investment, and work on our projects and learn how to be policy-oriented leaders.
The community that's been created here is unlike what I've ever seen. I really came in because it was such a unique opportunity to work with communities. I have not seen academic institutes who work that closely with actual communities who get affected and civil society organization. So I came in for that experience.
I would say what differs the Global China Initiative and the Global Development Policy Center is that we try to take an empirical perspective. We don't really take a stand politically, but try to collect the quantitative and qualitative information.
One of the most interesting things about China's development trajectory, the government has always been very focused on the local reality. So they'll have different policies for different regions, and they'll always test things out, experiment a little bit to make sure that it's really going to work. And I think that's a really valuable lesson that other governments and other nations can think about when they're looking into their own development trajectories.
So I actually spent a month in Malaysia. I went to the eastern parts of Malaysia called Kuantan, the Kuantan Pahang province, and checked the industrial ports there. So for me, I'm able to go to these places, talk to these people, acquire data, and sort of understand the context more precisely because the GDPC also gave me funding. And then my project is basically, I bring back the role of the leaders in the host states, looking at how elites in the host states sort of receive the offers from China in other countries, and then looking at how they compete for deals and sort of bringing back their agency.
One of my favorite things about the GCI Fellows is that the GDP Center gets to have a hand in creating a global network of junior scholars who are all focusing on similar themes, the global impact of the rise of China, from different perspectives, from different regional perspectives, from different disciplinary perspectives, so that we can ensure moving forward, the whole world looking at this issue has this resource of this network. It's a global good that we're creating here.
I think it's important to try and understand Chinese influence because of the role that China is playing globally currently. It is only the 2nd time in history that we're seeing this sort of infrastructure drive that is happening, and honestly the 1st time in history we're seeing one country play such a major role globally in infrastructure and development lending. So it is important to understand the influences, how the policies are shaped, not just to criticize, but to understand how it impacts communities everywhere and to see where we can make a difference and make it better.
Being published as an academic is not the be-all and end-all of your work. Academics have a privileged perspective in that we get to have fun and learn new things every single day. And the price we pay for that is shaping our research to make it relevant, is sharing it proactively with the communities who need it, listening to those communities to find out what is needed. That's our responsibility to the world as scholars.
Developing countries are important if we want to solve the climate change issues, and China is definitely one of the largest countries to look at. So during my pre-doctoral fellow time here, I've been collecting data on Chinese companies doing overseas investment in the power sectors to form a pretty comprehensive database that tells you what's going on about Chinese overseas investments. So the GCI really helps a lot to start in this field, and with all this exposure and connections with the people in the field, I feel very confident about research.
Working with the fellows is a lot of fun. We spend a lot of time together. Everybody have different backgrounds, but we're also similar with, I think, the sense of the task
One of the greatest things about the program is bringing them here and having them work together. They're usually the only PhD student out of 30 or 40 at Princeton or at BU who works on these things, and now they're all in the same room at the GDP Center. It's important to sustain efforts like this because we're fairly unique in our interdisciplinary approach and our long history. Being able to sustain it through time can make sure that there's going to be a continued voice that's doing strong empirical-based work that's also out there in the field and trying to do policy research for a better world.